In this section, I'm going to show you some basic audio editing, starting with AudioWarp Quantize, because just like with MIDI information that we quantized in the previous section, you can also quantize certain audio events. You can't necessarily easily quantize everything, but on this bass track, it does have pretty strong attack transients. I'm going to double-click on that to open my editor. If your waveform doesn't appear like mine does down here in the editor, make sure that you come to the inspector and you open the Range tab, and that will make the waveform appear thusly. And you can see that there are strong attack transients on this audio event, and that's what Cubase uses to track where notes are in the audio waveform. And as you'll remember, we quantized the drums and the other tracks, so now this bass track does seem a little bit sloppy in comparison. Let's take a listen to it before we do any quantization. And that's really just solo the drums and the bass. It's just that the timing is a little loose between the two. So what I'm going to do is AudioWarp Quantize this audio event. So with it highlighted, I come to the audio warp setting right here, which is in the quantize settings, and I make sure that that audio warp is enabled. Then I can choose the quantize preset that I want to use. Since I used the 16th note preset on the drums, it makes sense to use the 16th note preset on the bass track. And I am going to enable the soft quantize so that it's not going to be that robotic kind of quantizing. It's just going to firm up the timing. When I come to the event down here in the editor and type Q, you'll see that those attack transients get closer to the 16th notes or the bar lines. So it's subtle, but if I zoom in here, you can see that before, if I undo that quantize, then that attack transient wasn't quite on measure 4. If I redo the quantize by typing Q, then it gets closer. And so all of those notes are going to start to firm up the more I type Q. But I'm just going to do that once. Let's take a listen to the result and see if it feels better. Yeah, that does feel better. Now, if the instrument or track that you're recording has more long sustained notes and doesn't have any of these really strong transients, then the quantize isn't going to work as well. So you may need to spend a little bit more time massaging the settings. Now, let's say this bass event, we want to have actually groove in the exact same way as the drums themselves. I'm going to type undo a couple of times to get me back to the original recording of this unquantized bass track. And I'm going to come to the drums and I'm going to open up the lanes and take the kick and the snare drum event, then come under the edit menu, go to advanced quantize and choose create groove quantize preset. And that's going to make a new preset in our window up here. You can see that it has a little asterisk next to the name. So what it's doing is looking at the placement of the notes on this event, and it made a quantize preset so that we can quantize other events exactly against the groove of that original MIDI track. So let's come to the bass again, and I'm going to type Q now that I have the kick and the snare event as our quantize preset. And that's going to move things around a little bit differently. It's going to place those attacks where the MIDI notes are on the grid of Cubase. So now let's listen to the groove quantized result. So where I was late on the drums, the bass is late also. And where I was early, then the bass track is early. So it's going to straighten those attack transients on the bass to the MIDI notes on the MIDI event. And next, let's do more comping.